Poitiers, France, beneath the veneer of a respected bourgeois family, lay a dark and horrifying secret. A tale of beauty, love, and unimaginable cruelty. This is the story of Blanche Monnier, a woman whose life was stolen and hidden away, not by strangers, but by the very people she called family. Blanche was a beautiful French socialite from a well-respected family in the bourgeois aristocracy of the late 19th century. But she would become known as the confined woman of Poitiers. Blanche was held captive by her own family, completely cut off from the outside world, for 25 years. Her heartbreaking case shocked the people of France and confounded the country's legal system. Born March 1st, 1849 in Poitiers, France, Blanche Monnier was a socialite from a conservative and well-respected middle-class family. She grew up in a rich neighborhood at 21 Rue de la Visitation Street with her brother Marcel and her parents Charles and Millet and Madame Louise Monnier. Charles Millet was the head of the local arts facility, and the family even earned the Committee of Good Works award that was given to citizens who displayed the highest of virtues. Described by acquaintances as very gentle and good-natured, Blanche was renowned for her physical beauty. She enjoyed socializing and attending parties where she attracted many potential suitors. But by 1876, Monnier was 25 and still unmarried. The young woman didn't get along with her mother and suffered bouts of anorexia in her teenage years. Eager to move on with her own life and out from under the very controlling thumb of her mother, Blanche found love with an older lawyer. This romance would ultimately be the catalyst of her atrocious confinement. Despite Blanche's intention to marry the local lawyer, her mother Louise was dead set against the nuptials. She argued that her daughter wouldn't marry a penniless lawyer and used all of her means to prevent the union. Louise tried repeatedly to change Blanche's mind, plotting against her and even forbidding her decision. All of this proved futile, for the 25-year-old remained determined to marry the man that she loved. Blanche's desire and determination to marry her beau resulted in an explosive argument with her mother that allegedly ended with Louise locking her daughter away in a tiny attic room. The confined space had barricaded shutters that prevented any light from shining through, and Blanche's mother refused to release her daughter until she agreed to break off the marriage. Being headstrong and in love, Blanche denied her mother's wishes and stayed in the room, eating dinner scraps and sleeping on a hay bed left in the attic. But sadly, Blanche would never see her love again. He died in 1885, 9 years into her confinement. Just how was a well-respected, bright young woman able to disappear from society without raising any questions? Incredibly, Madame Louise and her son Marcel faked Blanche's death to ward off any questions or concerns. Outside observers, seen the two in mourning, they had no reason to suspect it was an act. They maintained a consistent story about their beloved Blanche meeting a tragic end. Yet, the missing woman's friends and suitor were never told exactly what happened to her. Marcel, who still lived at home in his 50s, despite being a lawyer, was also manipulated by his mother. He never questioned in her actions in confining Blanche. And with their father Charles and Millet dying in 1879, time passed the family by, and Blanche was soon forgotten by society. It wasn't until May 23rd of 1901 that Blanche's true and disturbing fate was revealed. 25 years had passed when the Paris Attorney General received an anonymous letter that spoke of the involuntary confinement of Blanche Monnier. The note, which was full of scribbles, claimed there was something strange occurring at the Monnier home. It read, "Monsieur Attorney General, I have the honor to inform you of an exceptionally serious occurrence. I speak of a spinster who is locked up in Madame Monnier's home, half-starved, and living on a putrid litter for the past 25 years, in a word, in her own filth." Despite believing that Blanche Monnier was dead, the police decided to go to the house and investigate the accusations. Madame Louise Monnier was a well-respected citizen in Paris who came from an aristocratic family and was lauded for her generous community contributions. But the police knew it was their duty to take the note seriously. When they showed up at the house, Madame Monnier peeked her head out of the window and ignored them. Police eventually forced their way inside and kicked in the padlocked door to the attic. What they found was both gut-wrenching and absolutely monstrous. Upon forcing the attic door open, the police were immediately hit with the putrid smell and discovered the skeletal Blanche, now in her early 50s. Covered in feces and scraps of food, with bugs all around the bed and floor. She was a gaunt figure with abundant black hair covering her unclothed body. Weighing barely 55 pounds, Blanche was malnourished. She had been completely cut off from society and hadn't seen sunlight in 25 years. Blanche seemed like a skittish animal when the police removed her. One police officer even later recalled, "As soon as light entered the room, we noticed in the back, lying on a bed, her head and body covered by a repulsively filthy blanket, a woman identified as Mademoiselle Blanche Monnier." The unfortunate woman was lying completely naked on a rotten straw mattress, and around her was formed a sort of crust made from excrement, fragments of meat, vegetables, fish, and rotten bread. And we also saw oyster shells and bugs running across Mademoiselle Monnier's bed. Another officer said, "The unfortunate woman was lying in filth with a smell so nauseous it was impossible to stay in the room for any length of time." How old was Blanche Monnier when she was rescued? Blanche was rescued in 1901, 25 years after her imprisonment, making her 52 years old at the time of her finally freedom. Sadly, Blanche spent the next 13 years in a psychiatric hospital in Blois, France. After being taken to the hospital, Blanche was grateful for the treatment by the nurses and was given a bath and a proper meal. When Madame Monnier was interrogated by police, she claimed that Blanche brought this treatment upon herself, claiming that her daughter had violent tendencies and had been mentally ill since her younger years. Marcel, Blanche's brother, agreed with these claims and said that his sister could have left at any time but chose to stay in the attic. Shortly after Blanche's rescue, her mother was arrested but became ill shortly after, dying 15 days later after seeing an angry mob gather in front of her house. Her son Marcel, who was a practicing lawyer, was initially convicted and sentenced to 15 months. But sadly later, a courtroom watched in horror as he was acquitted on appeal. Marcel Monnier was deemed mentally incapacitated, and the judge was unable to convict him because a duty to rescue law didn't exist in the penal code at that time. After being released from the hospital, it's no surprise that Blanche continued to suffer from her mental health problems. She was diagnosed with a wide array of disorders, including schizophrenia, chorophilia, anorexia, and exhibitionism. This behavior soon led her to being admitted to a psychiatric hospital in Blois, France, where she would remain until her death at the age of 64 on October 13th of 1913. Though justice was never truly served, the woman who endured such an appalling and incomprehensible life was finally at peace. Nobel Prize-winning French author André Gide wrote a book called La Secretary de Poitiers. Published in 1930, it told the story of Blanche Monnier, although the author changed the name of the main characters. This disturbing true story has elements of a device used in a long tradition of maiden in the tower fables, going back to ancient Greek and Irish myths through the German fairy tale of Rapunzel. It's been suggested that the girl imprisoned account of Blanche Monnier had a profound influence on the portrayal of abduction in fiction, such as the 1960 novel, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? And also the 1962 movie starring Bette Davis and Joan Crawford, a series of Gothic novels by V.C. Andrews that began with Flowers in the Attic, and perhaps even action thriller movies like Taken. Is it possible that Blanche Monnier was really mentally unwell in the first place? Possibly, but holding her hostage, it wasn't the treatment that she needed. No. If anyone was mentally unwell, it was her mother. After the trauma of all of that, it's impossible to even tell how and when Blanche's mental break happened. Blanche Monnier's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the cruelty that can hide behind closed doors. For 25 years, she was trapped in a tiny attic, cut off from the world by her own family. When she was finally found, people were shocked to see her in such a terrible state, thin, dirty, and barely alive. The story making us ask these hard questions, like how could her own mother, let alone with her brother, but her own mother, make her think that this was okay? And how did Blanche find the strength to survive in such awful conditions? Blanche's suffering teaches us an important lesson, that times have changed, and no one, no matter how different or what society thinks, should be hidden away. It shows that no matter people's status in society, that they too can have skeletons in their closet. They too can be a monster. What do you guys think about this episode with Blanche? I myself am so angry. I'm so angry for Blanche. Her life was taken. Her life was just taken. And then having to live in those conditions for 25 years. I mean, let alone for a couple days or a day, but 25 years. Like, what a monster. And I hope that, one met their, they got some kind of justice, the mom. Oh, I'm just so angry. I'm so angry. You guys, what do you think? Oh, Blanche, I'm so sorry. And I think her life kind of taught lessons, and I hope she gets a lot of peace in the afterlife or the next life, whatever happens. Thank you all for watching this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Leave those comments. I love you guys, and I will see you next time on Tales Told in the Dark.